Paramashivam. Nithyananda Paramashivam. Nithyananda
Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Adidam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya-dhilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavaditam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Nithyananda everyone. We welcome you all to yet another wonderful Bhava Samadhi Darshan with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. Today, Swamiji will be giving the Chandisha Bhava Samadhi Darshan to all of us as a part of the ongoing pre-program series for the Paramashivam program starting on the February 9th of this year. Along with the program, we are going to be learning multiple things. Who is Chandisha Bhava Samadhi? Who is Chandisha Murthy? What are the various powerful cognitions, powerful truths he represents, as well as how we can, in our practical life, applicably use this power manifestation science and the powerful cognitions being revealed by Chandisha Murthy. But before all of this, I'd like to go through two things with all of you today. And both of these are very important and very special breaking news about Kailasa. The first one being the clarification of the Interpol notice of the non-existential into which was being spread false rumors and allegations being spread by media sources. As we can see here, this post is from the official page of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the official Facebook handle. And we can see here that the media reveals the truth about the no Interpol notice against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, where there was no Interpol notice placed on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to begin with. And also used to say that the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, the Interpol has debunked the spate of disinformation in media of any Interpol notice or diffusion against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, in deference to the fact that he is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and head of the state of the United States of Kailasa. The persecution of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has also been recognized in the United Nations, international bodies, and other multiple countries. Baseless rumors spread about Interpol notices being issued against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. Media like the News Minute have revealed the truth of no Interpol notice against the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, along with clear evidences of letters directly from Interpol on the same matter. So we can see here the official Interpol notices. You can actually visit post on Facebook where the references and links to the News Minute report, as well as letters which state from the Interpol that no case has been put on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, have all been linked in. Yes, as you can see here, this is a version of the this is the snippet from the official report from Interpol saying that no issue has been placed on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. All these detailed references and the news media outlet article all have been linked in the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's main Facebook page. And moving on to the next special breaking news from Kailasa, about Kailasa, is from the United Nations recognizing the persecution happening on the Supreme Pontiff of Hindu on Kailasa's Nithyananda Gurukul, as well as Kailasa movement. The report on the special rapporteur on the sale and sexual exploitation of children, including child prostitution, child pornography, and other child sexual abuse material, on reparation for child victims and survivors of sale and sexual exploitation. The weaponization of sexual violence targeting women and children, especially of minority traditions, is part of a more pervasive and systematic campaign targeting certain indigenous spiritual traditions, minority communities, and their leaders. One such indigenous spiritual tradition, currently targeted for extermination by the deep state elements in the Hindu aboriginal indigenous agriculture tribes, led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam. Kailasa's Nithyananda Gurukul, which is the traditional residential education system of the AIAT, is one of the core components of the AIAT. From a tender age, they learn the 64 Vidyas, types of knowledge, in a unique method of knowledge transmission. Since the year 2010, deep state elements have forcibly and unlawfully shut down the indigenous Nithyananda Gurukuls, depriving several terrorist attacks continued, depriving several AIAT children of their fundamental human rights and right to education. Several terrorist attacks continue on the AIAT Gurukul schools and the children to destroy the Gurukul indigenous education system, ironically by the state bodies responsible for. And if you scroll down, you can see the links of from the official United Nations website, linking their website where these articles and reports have been published. Both of these newses have been presented and are available. You can visit Kailasa's Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's official Facebook handle to see the posts, or you can visit the United Nations official website as well. Going to the Facebook post, the references and the links to all these reports and everything we have mentioned about Interpol and about United Nations recognizing the persecution, both are available on Facebook, and you can directly visit these websites and channels to see for yourself the persecution being recognized by international bodies around the world, as well as expressing their support and solidarity with Kailasa and with the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. With this, we're going to be entering into the official introduction, the grand narrative of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was born on January 3rd, 1978 in the holy town of Tiruvannamalai in South India. At the tender age of 3, on the 17th of July 1981, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was initiated into the Bala Sannyas, which is a ritualistic ceremony to initiate a young one into the monkhood as a child saint. This initiation was performed by enlightened beings, masters, and the predecessors of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was identified as incarnation by multiple enlightened beings, such as Yogi Yogananda Puri, and masters like Vidwan Panduranganath and the 230th Guru Mahasanidhanam of the Tonde Mandaladinam of Kanchi Mutt. These are the various masters and enlightened beings who were part of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's early childhood and nurtured the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for the grand mission the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is doing today. At the age of 16, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was officially coronated as to revive Kailasa. You can see here the photograph of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism with his Guru, Mata Vibhudananda Puri, who performed the official induction as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as the successor into the lineage to revive Kailasa. This initiation happened, the coronation ceremony happened at the age of 16 for the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and along with the induction as the successor, the traditional items of the kamandalu, the conch, and the wooden staff were all handed over from guru to disciple as part of the tradition. Here we are looking at the early days in the mission. In the left hand side corner, we see a black and white photo, which is the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism in front of the first temple monastery complex the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism built for his Guru Mahataji Vibhudananda Puri. This complex was built by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism personally by his own hand, brick by brick, and was built for Mata Vibhudananda Puri under the guidance of his gurus. Later in the year 2001, on April 14th, at the age of 23, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism inaugurated the first Kailasa temple monastery complex in Tiruchengodu, South India. As you can see in the photo at the bottom left-hand most corner, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism's own handwritten annotation of the historic event was written on top of the photograph. A year later, on the 4th of November 2002, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism inaugurated and established the headquarters of Adi Kailasa Sarvanya Peetham. By the year 2004, at the age of 26, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism started conducting mass living enlightenment conventions all across the globe, taking people through powerful cleansing processes of the 7 energy bodies. These sessions, these conventions, initiations not only happened in India, but in various parts of the globe as well, including Europe, North America, Canada, and others. In the year 2007, in the year 2005, of 27, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was welcomed with the proclamation statement in St. Louis by Francis G. Slade, the mayor of St. Louis at that time. Here we can see more glimpses of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism conducting these mass living enlightenment initiations all across the globe, in Oklahoma, in various other places of North America and Europe. Yes, here we can see further living enlightenment initiations being conducted in the Kumbh Mela, which is a grand festival celebrated all over India. Here in the year 2015 in Nasik, you can see the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism giving the living enlightenment initiations to thousands of people who have gathered. As the same in the year 2016 in the Ujjain Kumbh Mela, where even more people received this living enlightenment initiations. Now, we're going to be looking at the various coronations which have happened to the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. The first one being when the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was very young. Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the 233rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Kanchi Tonde Mandaladinam. The next coronation which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism received was in the year 2002 of the coronation as the incumbent emperor of the Suryavamshi Surangi Samrajya. In the following years, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the present 23rd Guru Mahasannidhanam of Dharmamukti Adinam. In the year 2012, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the Kailasonata as the 293rd Jagat Guru Mahasannidhanam of Kailasonata Shyamalapita Sarvanya Peetham in Madurai. In the year 2013, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the Mahamandaleshwar of Mahanirvani Akhada, which is the largest apex monastic order. In the year 2014, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was coronated as the Acharya Mahamandaleshwar of the Atal Akhada, which is the head of all spiritual leaders and is the most ancient apex body of Hinduism. In the year 2015, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was elected as the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism by a congregation of over 1,000 spiritual leaders and pontiffs. Kailasa is a macrocosmic, ancient, enlightened Hindu civilizational nation whose vision is living enlightenment for all of humanity. Kailasa's mission is to revive and share with today's world the practical applications of the greater sciences of authentic Hinduism, including Hindu cosmic physics, Hindu alchemy, Hindu cosmology, Hindu biology, Hindu mathematics, power manifestation, and other sciences as revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. These sciences were once practiced freely all across the 56 nations spread across the continent, but are now facing extinction due to a persecution being faced over a millennium. Here we can now see the Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations and the initiatives which they have performed. Over 108 initiatives globally have been initiated by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for a variety of humanitarian services, which collectively allows for the creation of an enlightened, peaceful, sustainable, equitable, resilient, and thriving world. One of these many projects which we are going to be looking at right now is the No Hungry Home project offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for nutritious food and a hunger-free world. More than 1 billion meals have been served by Kailasa over the past 27 years. Every month for the past 27 years, the Hindu ASMT community has organized more than 3 million Annadan services. Annadan service is the traditional service offering the free organic meals during religious gatherings, free for all and without discrimination. More than 10,000 meals are served on a daily basis, and on festival days, this number increases to 100,000 meals, all served free of cost and without discrimination. As you can see here in these photos, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism himself is involved in the Annadan service. He personally, with his own hands, serving the devotees, disciples, and various people who have come to receive the Annadan service. Here we have the Sri Kailasa preventive and effective centers offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for affordable and holistic healthcare. During the pandemic, a global catastrophe, a global event which shook the world and created a lot of insecurity for all of us and for many other people across the globe, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is the only one who created a safe haven to protect ourselves from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism converted his temple monastery complexes into multi-layer quarantine facilities. These multi-layer quarantine facilities were offered free to all people, and regardless and without discrimination of their age, gender, caste, creed, ethnicity, color, social economic status, and so on. Not only that, but basic facilities such as food, shelter, medical care, and internet were all provided free of all cost and for an indefinite amount of time. More than 30 million citizens follow the Kailasa's 28-day spiritual regimen in the year 2020. Next, we have Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for education reform and development, offering the Nithyananda Hindu University and the Nithyananda Gurukul projects. Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, established the Nithyananda Hindu University, which is the world's largest Hindu university. Nithyananda Hindu University, 70 million enrollments, 7,000 free courses and extended campuses in 150 countries. The Nithyananda Gurukul was inaugurated and established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism on the 2nd of October 2006. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism for the revival of the authentic and ancient Adi Shaivite Guru-disciple education system, which is an authentic knowledge transmission system based on the fundamental principles of enlightenment. Next, we can see here Sri Kailasa's Uniting Nations projects for protecting the Hindu scriptures. These projects are the Nithyananda Hindu Jnanalaya project, which is the library, and the Hinduismpedia project. The Nithyananda Hindu Jnanalaya was established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism to collect and preserve the 1 million Hindu scriptures, while ensuring that knowledge is made accessible and shared free of all cost. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism himself has authored more than 10,000 books, which have been written in 3 different languages, which have been translated into 50 other different languages, and has published more than 10,000 articles, has given more than 10,000 free discourses with a combined total view of 1 billion. The Hinduismpedia project is where the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and the collection of more than 15 terabyte of material collected by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, of digital books, rare manuscripts from all the 19 Sarvanya Pitas, ancient mats, and ashrams. More than 1 million pages on Hinduism have been collected, and a collection of 20 digital books, 1,000 e-textbooks, and 1,000 articles and 100,000 articles on various topics of Hinduism have been collected in these projects. The next offering we are seeing by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations is for global peace and religious harmony, offering the confluences for world peace. In the year 2009, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism organized a month-long peace walk covering 1,000 kilometers in 1,000 villages to bring together in harmony from all walks of life to promote feeling, connection, and oneness among people. During the walk, health camps were conducted in villages along its path. The next project which we are looking at right now is the women empowerment programs offered by Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations for feminine empowerment and gender equality. One of the first projects which we are seeing here is the Kailasa's Yogini Sarvinipitam, which was established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism as various yoga and meditation universities to empower the quality of life and emphasis on life solutions through the Vedas and Agamas, empowering the indigenous rural women, fighting against wrongful gender stereotyping, gender-based violence, and lack of inclusive and quality learning education. Some of these initiatives include Kailasa's Nithyananda Lakshmi, which is a microfinancing project, Kailasa's Women Foundation and Women Empowerment Self-Help Centers, which have been launched in 108 different places across the globe since its initiation in 2009. We have Kailasa's Ankita program, providing foundational literacy about the working of basic community services and infrastructural establishments, as well as Kailasa's Ashraya program, providing vocational training programs to rural and indigenous women to provide equal opportunities and access to independent, self-sufficient financial environments for them. Not only this, but the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has revived the Vedic feminism in Kailasa, where more than 80% of leadership positions are occupied by women. Here we're looking at one of the most historic in the history of Sri Kailasa. Before that, we're going to be looking at Sri Kailasa Uniting Nations offerings in the field of yoga. First is the Nityananda Kriyas, which are 108 scientifically validated Kriyas revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, specifically targeting 108 major diseases and disorders such as diabetes, arthritis, blood pressure, and rheumatism. The next is Kailasa's Shivastamba Yoga and Kundalini Rajju Yoga. Both are ancient forms of yoga which were revived by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. These different types of yoga, in which yogic asanas, postures, and weight balancing techniques are performed to create the yogic physiology, aligning it to the cosmic geometry to manifest superconscious powers in all of us. Not only that, but the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was awarded 2 Guinness World Records for the largest rope yoga and Kundalini Rajju Yoga, pole yoga, Shivastamba Yoga classes, bringing worldwide attention to these extraordinary forms of yoga. These Guinness World Records were received by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism on the 30th of September and 3rd of October, respectively. We are now looking at one of the most historic moments in the history of Kailasa and the Kailasa nation. As you can see here, Kailasa, the first nation of Hindus led by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam, spoke on behalf of 2 billion Hindus globally, the Hindu diaspora, at the 14th session of the United Nations Forum on Minority Issues. A significant milestone in the history of Hindus and the sovereign state of Sri Kailasa happened on the 2nd of December 2021. His Excellency Sri Nitya Priyananda, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Kailasa, represented the persecution of Hindus at the 14th session of the United Nations Forum on Minority Issues. The theme of the forum was conflict prevention and the protection of indigenous human rights of minorities. This was the first time the plight of persecuted Hindu minorities was represented in the United Nations. The ongoing, systematic, and generational attacks on Hindu diaspora were highlighted in this meeting. We are now looking at the torture and murder attempts by the state and non-state actors on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. More than 70 assassination attempts in India and physical attacks in the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, both in India and abroad, have been attempted. 40 attacks on community members, destruction of incidences of attack and rape of women and women monks. Intense lawfare through the 100 false legal cases, all but one are dismissed. The entire government mechanism, politically owned media, police, judiciary control, the inciting of mobs through the social media. All of these are just but a few of the many different lawfare techniques and illegal persecution ways through which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism was illegally persecuted. But despite all of everything which the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism has been, Swamiji was steadfast in his resolution and commitment to establish the Kailasa nation for all Hindus, to revive and protect this ancient Hindu Dharma and give the superconscious the whole of humanity. One of the important ways the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is reviving Hinduism as well as giving the superconscious breakthrough to the whole of humanity is through the power manifestation science. The manifestation science was established by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism and dates back its originality in the scriptures of Vedas and Agamas. In the next segment, we're going to be learning more about the science of power manifestation, as well as learning the scriptural reference for these powers, the 463 powers mentioned by Paramashiva in the Veda Agamas. Not only that, but we are also going to be seeing a live demonstration of the power of third eye in consciousness over matter. So please stay tuned. We'll be back with you after a short break.
A more intelligently connected world leads to a brighter future. An enlightened humanity leads to a better world. During the Paramashivam program, we help people to discover their superhuman possibilities and help them to find and achieve the true purpose of their birth by giving them the techniques, practices, and methodologies from the Veda Agamas, the original source scriptures of Hinduism. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is reviving the ancient original Vedas and Agamas in all its glory for the modern mind. The Supreme transforming human beings into divine beings, reviving, initiating, and replicating the 463 powers from the Agamas revealed by Paramashiva. The Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is not just giving solutions for every problem man faces, but is making them irrelevant to their lives by transforming human beings into divine beings.
Listen. Any argument presented by your mind, body, your present reality to establish you are not Paramashiva. You are not omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Anything presented to prove you are not Paramashiva is illegitimate. Decide this. This is super determinism. Understand? Anything you declare as illegitimate will lose power over you, will die in few days, few minutes, maybe in few weeks, whatever few days it takes. It will not have power over you. Understand, this is the method for sudden enlightenment. This is the method for sudden enlightenment. It happens by the Shaktipada. Here Paramashiva is sitting to tell you all, you are Paramashiva, you are me, with Shaktipada and Shaktinipada.
The Dvitiya Vinyasa Krama is an extensive and thorough yoga sequence to prepare your body to receive the experience being given by the Supreme Founder of Hinduism. Through the yoga, which is aligned as per the source scriptures laid down by Paramashivam and the Agamas, you break all the impossibility in your body and in turn break the very cognition of impossibility. The program leads you to go beyond your human frame and limiting human ideas, which prevents you from living your highest possibility.
I will reach you wherever you are, whichever corner of the world you may be. I will reach you with enlightenment.
Again I tell you, I am not here to prove I am God, I am here to prove you are God.
Don't wait to become divine. Register now at paramashivoham.org.
I welcome you all with my love and respect. Let you all open all your three eyes.
Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam.
Yes, so we welcome all the viewers back to the session. Now will be, before we enter into the power manifestation, we want to reiterate the beautiful victories that the Kailasa has got after from the various happenings that have been good auspicious happenings that have happened. So we want to share the two great happenings that have been which have happened for Kailasa in the past few days. So first is the Interpol notice. The what the Interpol has given a statement supporting Kailasa and saying that Kailasa and the supreme point of Hinduism is has known there is no any sort of notice which has been given against the supreme point of Hinduism, and Interpol stands supporting Kailasa and accepts that Kailasa that the supreme point of Hinduism is helping humanity. And then we also have the detailed reports and pictures and links which have been given in the description. All the viewers can take few minutes to read those things which have been given, and also share this with all your friends and family and tell them the truth about Kailasa and spread this truth to everyone so that everyone also knows the real truth and starts to understand that the how Kailasa is standing for Hinduism and at the large standing for humanity. And then we also have the report from the UN also, which has given another report stating its support for its recognition of the various persecutions that have been happened on the children and the women and at the large the whole Hinduism and the whole Sanatana Dharma. UN also understands and has given their strong statement and statement of support for Kailasa and recognized the various persecutions that have happened on Kailasa. So the make sure that you go and visit this. Both of these posts are pinned as the featured posts in the Facebook page. So all of you viewers can go and even as soon as you enter the Facebook page, you will see both the posts being pinned at the top, and you can share this with all your friends and family and share it to as many groups, forward it to other people so that they also know how the Hinduism has been attacked and how the Supreme Founder of Hinduism is standing to revive it and support the whole of humanity to go to the next superconscious breakthrough. So now we'll be entering into the power manifestation segment where we'll be understanding the various truths about power manifestation and ultimately having a live demonstration of the powers. So first let's understand what is power manifestation and what Paramashiva has told about it in the Agamas. So in the Veda Agamas, the source scriptures of Sanatana Dharma, Paramashiva reveals in elaborate detail that every human being is hardwired to be able to manifest the 463 extraordinary Shaktis. Manifesting powers are described in a systematic method and science for human beings to explore the various possibilities and powers and have access to the various states of consciousness. Shaktis manifest from the fundamental cognition that you are divine. You need to manifest divinity and not you are a man and you need to reach divinity. So there's a direct difference in that. There's a fundamental difference in that. Now we're going to be understanding the difference between the Shaktis and the Siddhis. The Shaktis are the powers that manifest from the space of Paramashiva as a side effect of feeling connection with the Guru, whereas the Siddhis are powers that manifest from penance for enlightenment. Shaktis are the source of enlightenment, whereas Siddhis are manifested on the path of enlightenment. Then the Shaktis manifest in every ordinary human after initiation from the living incarnation, whereas the Siddhis only prevent us from attaining enlightenment. They divert us, not prevent, they divert us from enlightenment. And the Shaktis are permanent, whereas the Siddhis are not permanent. Now we are going to see the various ways these powers are validated scientifically and foolproof to be manifested by every human. There are four different ways the manifestation is validated. There's the Shastra Pramana, the scriptural references, the direct revelations of Paramashiva, what Paramashiva has given to us in the Vedas and the Agamas. So that is the Shastra Pramana. The Apta Pramana is the time-tested, foolproof experiences and happenings that have happened in the past from the times of the ancient rishis who were the scientists and who gave us these high level knowledge, scientific knowledge about everything that we know, and including the recent most masters like Maharishi, Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, and all these great masters who came before us. Then we have the Atma Pramana, the experiences of the Supreme Founder of Hinduism, which have been validated and verified with the Shastra Pramana and the Apta Pramana. Then we have the Pratyaksha Pramana, which is the scientific study of these powers, what science is able to understand and derive from this power manifestation. We're going to be seeing the details of this in a few minutes, but first we have to understand who is the source and how these powers manifest. The source for these powers to manifest is Paramashiva, who is the primordial divinity in Hinduism, the ultimate reality and cause of which is self-effulgent, Swayam Prakasha, all-pervading, unchanging beyond time and space and form, and he is the causality as the fundamental base of manifest and the unmanifest, and he creates this whole cosmos and this whole existence to the five actions, the panchakritya. So this is the understanding about the source of how these powers are manifested. Then there's a very powerful cognition which has been given by the supreme point of Hinduism. When the Shaktis, when the truths, the powerful cognitions, which are the jnana, which is mapped into the consciousness, the prajna, it manifests as possibilities and powers of every being. Now we are going to be seeing the details of each of the pramana one by one and understand what Paramashiva has given to us. So first we are seeing the Shastra pramana for the power of the third eye, which is the source. The third eye is the main center in our body which actually allows the Paramashiva energy to flow through us. So we have the Shastra Pramana, which is from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, a scripture which has been directly given to Paramashiva Shakti by Paramashiva. So in that, the 34th verse gives us the understanding about how the powers manifest from the third eye. The verse goes, Kapalantar manonyasa tishtannilita lochanaha ramena manaso dhadyat lakshayet lakshyamuttamam. Paramashiva says, by having the mind fixed on the inner space within the crown center and sitting stably without any movement, having the eyes closed in succession to the third eye, that stability of the mind and the inner space gives the seer the power to see through the third eye and he sees the direct vision of the ultimate goal, Lakshyam, having the vision beyond the sight of and reveals any object and place attaining the space of oneness with Paramashiva. So we can see how in this verse directly the Supreme Paramashiva is giving us the direct understanding about how the powers manifest from the third eye. Next we have the Apta Pramana, which is the experiences and historical events showing us the and validating the signs of power manifestation. Here we can see the beautiful happening of the Mahabharata, and in the Mahabharata Bhagavan Shri Krishna initiates Arjuna into the third eye. So the story goes that Arjuna was in the battlefield and he wanted to see the Vishwarupa Darshana, the cosmic form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So when Arjuna requests Krishna to show that form, Krishna tells Arjuna that you cannot see my cosmic form with these physical eyes of yours. Therefore, I grant you the divine vision of the third eye. Behold my cosmic opulence. And then Arjuna is able to see the cosmic form of the whole of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, and he sees the whole cosmos and describes the various aspects of the cosmic form in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Then we have the Atma Pramana, the experiences from the Supreme Point of Hinduism. In his own words, the Supreme Point of Hinduism says that the first experience that I had, I was able to see everything around me, above me, the whole 360 degrees and 10 directions. Everything I realized, not only I was able to see, I was able to feel, experience all that as me. So we can see here how the supreme point of Hinduism's experience matched directly to the Shastra Pramana. Here we are seeing the scientific evidence, the Pratyaksha Pramana, which has been manifested, which has been revealed to us by the scientific research which has been conducted directly on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. So here we can see a study was conducted on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and they had conducted the positron emission tomography test on the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, and when they did that they saw high level of brain activity from the place of the third eye, which is in the frontal lobe. So they were able to see high amount of energy and high frequency waves being emitted from the third eye of the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism. And this same results has been replicated in the Balasans and various other yogis who have manifested this power. Here we can see now we are going to enter into the one of the powers that manifests from the space of the third eye, which is the power of consciousness over matter. The power is from the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, Sutra 120, Dharana 95. The verse goes, Kvachid vastuni vinyasya shanay drishtim nivartayet tajnanam chitta sahitam devi shunyalayo bhavet. Paramashiva says, having fixed one's eyes on a particular object, Vastu, one should slowly eliminate and withdraw the sight from that object as well as slowly eliminate the knowledge and the impressions of that object. Then, O Devi, one abides in Shunya, the state where there is nothing other than this exists, which is the state of all inclusiveness and infinity. So here we can see how Paramashiva has given us a beautiful detailed step-by-step procedure for how the power of consciousness over matter manifests in every one of us. Now we are going to be having a live demonstration of this power where I'll be demonstrating this power of consciousness over matter to all of you so that we can all experience the space and the powers of Paramashiva. And now how we'll be manifesting this power is I will be placing my hand on a flat surface and the Atmalinga will be placed on my hand. And then by the connection and the oneness with Paramashiva, I will be making the Atmalinga to stand. So the goal of this power is not just making the Atmalinga stand, but it is ultimately allowing Paramashiva to flow through us. Because when we manifest powers, we are ultimately creating the high state of consciousness with Paramashiva, which is creating a strong environment to create the reality and create the field of oneness in all the viewers watching it so that you can manifest your realities. So now I'll be showing the close up.
I welcome you all with my love and respect. Let you all open all your three eyes. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam.
Yes, so now we can see my Atmalinga. So now we can, as we know, the Atmalinga is made out of a crystalline material. So no kind of magnet can be used to make the Atmalinga to move, or there cannot be any external things that can be used to create the movement in the Atmalinga. and then you can see my hand, that there is there's nothing in my hand which is there, which can be used to make the Atmalinga to move. So you can see that there is no strings or anything that is tied to my hand, which can be used to make the Atmalinga move. And then I have this tissue paper over here, which I'll be using to show that there is no kind of strings, which can be used to make the Atmalinga to move. Place the Atmalinga on my hand. I will be circling the Atmalinga with the tissue paper to show that there is no kind of external thing which is being used to pull the Atmalinga or anything. So now I'm placing the Atmalinga on my hand, and now I'm just circling my Atmalinga, showing that there is no kind of any external things which are being used. So even you can see that when the tissue paper is moved, the Atmalinga is stable. So we can know that there is no kind of strings or anything which is there on any side which is making the Atmalinga move. So now I'll be chanting the Mahavakya. And when I chant the Mahavakya, all of the viewers watching us now can also chant along. Now I'll be connecting with Paramashivam, and this is the best time all of you can also use to create any reality that you want, so that when I am creating the space of oneness with Paramashivam, it will also be affecting you, because we are all entangled now. And as you are watching this same mirror neurons which are being created, the neurological pathways which are being used to create this effect. Because when these kind of power manifestations manifest, we have seen high amount of gamma waves and emitted from the brain. So at that time, it creates the high space for anyone who's seeing this to also replicate that in their brain. So now I'll be chanting the Mahavakya. You can also join with me and chant the Mahavakya. So you can manifest any reality that you want, or you can also manifest the same power. So now let us enter into the manifestation. Om Nithyananda Paramashivoham. 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 ॐ नित्यानन्द परमशिवोऽहम्. So now we have seen the beautiful manifestation of the power.
I welcome you all with my love and respect. Let you all open all your three eyes. Om Nitya Paramashivam. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam.
So the best thing about the power manifestation is that it is aimed and it is programmed by the Supreme Power of Hinduism to create the best reality in our life. It will never take us to any of the wrong paths, and it is focused only on creating a better life for humanity to live in a more enlightened world. As now we see so much of happening outside, so much of violence, so much of negativity happening around us. It is the best time that we can take to charge ourselves with the most powerful tools to create the best reality in all our lives. So that is why the Supreme Founder of Hinduism has given us the beautiful opportunity to be part of the Mahaparamashivoham. Because that the Supreme Founder of Hinduism is directly giving participants the opportunity and the tools required to create the best life they want. The amazing initiations and experiences that the participants have had is there's no words to tell that. Like people who have been not able to sit for 50 years has just sat in 2 days after attending the program, have almost $100,000 in just 2 weeks. So these kind of amazing manifestations are happening, and it's not some kind of magic which the Supreme Point of Hinduism is doing. He is giving us the signs of becoming Paramashiva. So all of you can also. Sorry for the technical glitch. Yes, so I was saying that the Supreme Point of Hinduism is not doing it for us. He is giving us the tools to become Paramashiva. So we have the QR code which is there. You can scan it with either your Android or Apple phone, and it will take you directly to the link paramashivoham.org, and you can just search, or if you want you can just search in Google Paramashivoham program registration, and you should land up in the Kailasas